Hey guys, it's Stove here. Today we're going to be talking about week 5 of the NFL and talking about some big games coming up. This is going to be pretty exciting. I am recording this the day of the Thursday night game, 49ers and the Rams. And yeah, let's get right into it. So obviously, if this does come out a little bit later in the night while the 49ers and Rams game is playing, I'll let you guys know that in the description. This is obviously pre-recorded to this game. So anyway, obviously it shows that the Rams are favorited 8.5 points, and at home I could have respect for that. That's definitely understandable where that's coming from, and especially since the 49ers, the way that they played last week, I think they should have won that game, but they didn't. Brock Purdy looked very lost and was throwing a lot of incompletions, though I'm pretty sure it was the Jaguars defense that was making him look every single direction, and also he was getting pressured like hell out there. It was ridiculous for that offensive line to give up that many pressures, especially since he dropped back to I think 40 plus times. I think he was 22 for 40, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, you also had Matthew Stafford and that Rams offense looking pretty dang good. Matthew Stafford throwing like his young self. No real oldness showing up. He looked spectacular in that game last week that he had, and I don't think he's thrown any interceptions besides the one that he had, I think, with the Eagles, and one previous to that. So obviously, like I said, it is very understandable why they have the Rams favorited as high as they do, and it's also one of the reasons why I also have them winning this Thursday night game tonight, probably by a possession, maybe by at least 10 points. This is a division rivalry game, so whoever really wins this will be up one on the division. I think the Rams will end up clinching this division anyway by week 12, the way things are going. And that's probably a hot take for those who love the 49ers or think that the Seahawks can do something, but that division itself is crazy and could go any way. But Rams have definitely looked a lot better defensively than the 49ers, and I think offensively, Matthew Stafford, Williams, their running back, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams being the dual threat there. There's just a lot more going for the Rams than there are the 49ers. Unless the 49ers start going back and forth, then for those who are saying it could end up with a field goal by the end of the game, I can kind of see that too. But the 49ers defense, with Nick Bosa out, they have not looked the same. And that's the same if Myles Garrett got injured on the Browns. The Browns defense would not look near as the same as what they are right now. But anyway, I think the Rams are going to go 4-1. 49ers go 3-2. Now, obviously, last week, I don't know why it's scheduled not scheduled like this, but it's put like this. So I guess we will talk about the Lions and Bengals game first. I do think the Lions are going to end up winning. Yes, Cincinnati Bengals fan in me is getting crushed, but at home, it will probably be not as embarrassing. I think we will play harder. Especially since you have your captains like Jamar Chase saying that it looks like that they're not playing hard at all. They're not trying. And whether that means that they need to have a change of leadership in the coaching staff, whether or not they have to have a change of mentality on defense and offense, I think there's a lot to be done for this Cincinnati Bengals team. If they somehow pull it out, it would be a miracle for the Cincinnati Bengals at home. But the Lions will end up, obviously they're favorited 10.5. I think that might be the highest pointed favorite, especially for a away team going to someone else's home. That's like the highest favorited that I've seen so far this year. Or I'm probably wrong on that, but at least this week it's definitely the highest pointed favorite for an away team going against someone at home. So I do think the Lions are going to play the way they've always been playing, unless the Bengals defense turns over the ball. It will pretty much be the exact same Lions that we've been seeing, and the Bengals hopefully will score more than 3 points this coming weekend, but we'll just see. Obviously, it also shows 49.5 points total, which that's possible, especially if the Bengals puts some points on the board. But it could also mean that they think that the Lions are just going to put up like 35, 42 points on us, which is also very possible the way our defense has been looking. So yeah, the Lions gonna take that one, go 4-1. Vikings and Browns, that's gonna be interesting. The Browns have already done so much against this NFC North team. Well, NFC North division. Oh, can't speak today. The Vikings have been looking pretty good, but obviously Joe Flacco is not going to be starting. Well, sorry, Browns team has been looking somewhat good, but their quarterback that is leading in the stats, he is not going to be starting this game 5 for the Browns. It will be Dylan Gabriel. It will have we will see some interesting plays by Dylan Gabriel, just like we did last week whenever he got put into the game, late into the game. And the Vikings are still going to have Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz did a lot better last week, and it showed, and they were able to get a solid win. Even Jason Mason got a little bit of running going, but it was more of a passing game for the Vikings last week against the Steelers. Now, they could redeem themselves and win in London against the Cleveland Browns. It is possible, which that's why I do have the Vikings winning against Dylan Gabriel and the Browns, but I do also see with the Browns defense, Carson Wentz can definitely struggle. I think if he's throwing interceptions at the Steelers defense, he will more than likely either get pressured for sacks or he will get pressured to where Carson Wentz is throwing 1 or 2 interceptions to the Browns defense too. So it could end up being a close game just because of the defense. 3.5 seems pretty reasonable. You could also make it to possibly just a full touchdown possession as well. But yeah, Vikings winning against the Browns, definitely can see that in London. But don't be surprised if Dylan Gabriel still has a pretty good game as well. I don't see Dylan Gabriel throwing an interception. Well, I do, but it's only if the Vikings defense comes out, which lately it's been up and down. I don't know what else to say. It has been up and down for that Vikings defense. So anyway, you got Raiders and Colts. Just the way the Raiders have been, Ashton Genty has really been their only offense. So, sorry, if you guys have Ashton Genty on your fantasy, you guys will know that he's been last week. He was the only scorer besides the Raiders kicker. So, which Ashton Genty provided 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were receiving touchdowns. 1 of them was a rushing touchdown. Guy had like 37 fantasy points in my league anyway. Probably had a little bit less in your guys' league. But yeah, I do, however, see the Colts, if they just contain Ashton Genty like some of these other teams have already done, even if Ashton Genty still does what he does, the Raiders defense hasn't looked too good. They haven't really put up a lot of solid plays defensively. Their special teams is okay. Again, I just don't see the Raiders winning against this year's Colts. Especially at home, especially the Colts home, I don't see the Colts starting to go on a losing streak. They very much could. Pete Carroll could have some plays ready for Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor. You're going to probably see some different things going on there. But I think the Colts will end up winning probably by 2 touchdowns. There's a chance that the Colts do just dominate the Raiders, and especially with Geno Smith doing what he's doing, I mean, it does not help whenever you have a starting quarterback that signed for 3 years, I believe, and he's throwing multiple interceptions a game. And on average, I think he's throwing an interception and a half or 2 interceptions a game. Not saying that he's doing that every single game, because I don't think he did throw 2 interceptions every single game. But just looking at the stats, it is not looking good passing-wise for the Raiders. Rushing, if they could focus on 65-70% rushing, where Geno Smith can just pass short routes to Brock Bowers or Jacoby Myers from time to time, just to get some first downs and just punch the ball in with Ashton Genty, that can definitely be some plays that they can surely make and get some good rhythm going. The Colts, they got a lot of different stuff to do. I mean, they got a lot of different stuff that they can do offensively. The Colts defense will pretty much do exactly what every other defense that the Raiders have faced so far. They'll just get a couple of interceptions, and they will just pressure the hell out of Geno Smith whenever he's passing. And right now, like I said, the Colts look that damn good right now. So that's why I have the Colts going 4-1. They're going to still be undefeated at home. And we're going to probably see at least a touchdown for Jonathan Taylor, at least 2 touchdowns for Daniel Jones, and hopefully Tyler Warren can get one of those receiving touchdowns. He hasn't even gotten a touchdown yet, so hopefully we give some love for Tyler Warren. And now we get to the Giants and the Saints. Obviously, the stat leader for passing, Russell Wilson. That is terrible because he's not going to be starting this game, just like he wasn't starting last week. Last week, the Giants did outplay the Chargers. However, I do think that the Chargers did dig themselves a bigger hole with the amount of penalties that they caused to themselves. Losing 18-21 against the Giants, everyone's like, oh, that's terrible. Number one, Jackson Dart is a solid quarterback. He looked very good, was running pretty well, even had Scatterboo going out for some receiving catches and some solid rushing yards. So I do think even without Malik Neighbors for the Giants, you're going to have Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo, and even some of these wide receivers like Robinson, coming out and being able to do what they need to do. So realistically, that's why I have the Giants winning, even though it says New Orleans 1.5. I think the Saints defense will be the only catalyst right now that will make it a close game. Unless the Saints offense shows me otherwise. Alvin Kamara, he's doing good, but that's just Alvin Kamara. Ever since they gotten Alvin Kamara, they've been almost a run heavy or throwing to Alvin Kamara on some routes here and there. So Alvin Kamara has always been that guy. Spencer Rattler, we don't know if he's that guy. Even though he's played 4 straight games so far, probably even more if you're counting last year, we don't know yet. But I do have to say, like I said last week, you start Dart and you will win. I'm sure if I get this saying more and more and more, and some people view it a little bit more, some of you guys will even say, start Dart, and you will win. Simple as that. I don't think the Saints are going to get their first win. At least not at home. It could be against a division rival. It could be against someone that's not as good. But right now, the Saints are looking like the worst team in the league. And to a lot of people, that's not surprising. But Giants will go and get their second win of the year. Cowboys and Jets, even with Justin Fields playing last week, it still didn't look good with them losing against the Dolphins. It was still a close game. Garrett Wilson was able to get a touchdown. He's been getting up more and more. Actually, I think if you guys need a wide receiver, if someone hasn't already picked up Garrett Wilson, pick him up in the fantasy. I'm telling you, that guy is going to give you some points. Probably not near as much because you got a scrambling quarterback, but the fact that he has 27 catches with 311 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns, I can see him also getting targeted the most, like he has been in the last 2 to 3 games. So definitely can be an up and down game, but with Dallas's offense just being way better right now than the Jets offense, I think it will go maybe back and forth, but it could also just go with the Cowboys just trying to outscore the Jets, which I think they need to know that you can't just outscore people, because even last week or this past game for the Cowboys, outscoring people does not mean you're always going to win against the team. With tying 40 for 40 against Green Bay and losing the 2 games that you lost, it needs to, your defense needs to have some changes. Simple as that. If you guys want to dominate anybody, obviously the Jets can be a good confident booster if the defense comes to play. Cowboys offense will end up doing some good. I think they'll score 31 to 35 points. The Jets will probably only score 21 or 24, but still it will just end up being the Cowboys playing just better offensively than the Jets. So I got the Cowboys finally technically being going 500 with a 2-2-1 record. I don't know, is that 500? Maybe 450. I don't know how that would work. The Broncos and Eagles, a lot of people are kind of spiking this up as a possible game of the week. And it could be, if the Broncos defense saddles up, does exactly what they need to do against that Eagles offense. If the Eagles offense comes in there rushing at first or focusing just on Saquon Barkley's legs and Jalen Hurts' mobility to get out of the pocket and stuff like that, they contain that. It will just be Jalen Hurts versus a very good pass coverage Broncos who Jalen Hurts could end up getting intercepted at least once. I think the Broncos can intercept him once, but just the way the Eagles' defense has also been playing, it's very up and down. The Broncos, I don't think, have been blown out yet, but they've also allowed some things to happen. But with young Bo Nix, you're going to have those problems of allowing an interception or two. Right now, on average, he is averaging 1 interception per game, but at least with people like J.K. Dobbins, Cortland Sutton, Broncos do look pretty darn good, but I can still just see the Eagles pressuring him into throwing maybe another interception, but also either that or sacking him a lot, making him have at least 15 or more incompletions going into that game. By the end of it, we'll see the Eagles beat the Broncos. It may be a closer game, like a 3.5. That's pretty darn good for some of the other teams that the Eagles were favored at even higher than. The Broncos getting only a 3.5 underdog is pretty solid. And we could end up seeing something of the Broncos as long as they do everything accordingly defensively and stop the Eagles early. The Broncos could come back and end up winning by 3 to 5 points. We never know. But I will still say the Eagles will end up winning at home. Still being undefeated at home. Be a solid game for both teams, though. Dolphins and Panthers, this was a very higher, a little bit more of a wonkier game to kind of look into. I do think the Dolphins showed a lot of promise offensively with Tyreek Hill being gone. That is a superstar for sure, but besides Tyreek Hill, you guys have a lot more stars that can be superstars. Achane is your running back and will be your running back until you guys decide to not want any more of him. So I think Achane will look a lot better. He will be given a lot more chances, even though last week and the week before he was given a lot of chances, not just running the ball but also catching the ball. So I also think Tua Tagovailoa can be a little bit more mobile. He doesn't have to throw and streak the ball down the field just for Tyreek Hill not to catch it. So I think Jayden Waddle will be able to spread his wings a little bit more. Darren Waller looked a little bit better. Just looked outstanding with his being a veteran and all, and being as old as he is. I think he is that solid guy that they may look at. But the Panthers also have some solid up and down stuff too on offense and defense. This game is one of those games where it really just depends on who makes the first mistakes, who makes those last mistakes. And we'll see, even with the Panthers being at home, Miami is still favored by just 1.5 of a point. So we'll see, but I do have the Dolphins getting their second win of the season and finally winning away. And that's another thing. A lot of people are thinking, well, the Panthers could win their second home game because, the Dolphins haven't been so good away. And I can tell you this, the Dolphins had to face the Bills at Buffalo, I'm pretty sure. So comparing the Bills to Panthers, there's no contest usually there. So, though the Saints have also made it a close game against Buffalo at Buffalo. So never know with these games. But I do think, again, going back on it, Dolphins will win that game. And we'll finally get an away win. Texans and Ravens. A lot of injuries for the Ravens going into it. I think there's at least 14 injuries. There are like 3 injured players that are doubtful that their star linebacker and Raquan Smith. Marlon Humphrey, their safety, I think he's also doubtful to come in, and even Lamar Jackson, who's doubtful to come in this game. Not only that, but there's like 6 other players defensively that either have already practiced or have been put out from practice. So we don't know who's coming back. If they don't all come back, it will be a struggle. Even if you have half of those defensive players coming back, it's going to be a struggle for that Ravens offense unless we see some of these Ravens defensive players that are coming off the bench having to start or getting more reps than usual. They may be able to do a little bit more against the somewhat struggling offense of CJ Stroud's offense in Houston Texans. Houston Texans defense has also not been too well either, so Derrick Henry could also flourish and, be running all over Houston's defense. We'll see. But the fact, this will be one of very few times when we see Ravens are the underdogs going in at their home at Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium. So with all these injuries, they take that into account. I do think the Texans will end up winning that game, and I actually have it here on my little notebook here that Houston Texans will win. It will still be a struggle for Houston because I still think that offense of the Ravens, with Derrick Henry still there, with Zay Flowers, with Mark Andrews, the second string quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens will have weapons to be able to go to if that guy is struggling. So, but I still have to say injuries are injuries. Injuries can affect the game, will affect the game, and with half of your defense expecting to probably not play this weekend, I would have to say Houston's going to take very much advantage of that, and CJ Stroud is going to probably look a lot better than he has against any other team, and everyone's going to basically put the narrative out there. CJ Stroud beats Baltimore Ravens. CJ Stroud back? Maybe. But at the same time, some people that didn't watch that game or pay attention to that game really won't think like, oh, well, Baltimore Ravens, that was the Baltimore Ravens. They beat the Baltimore Ravens. No, they didn't. They beat a bunch of backups if their Houston Texans do beat the Baltimore Ravens. So let's not think about that narrative just yet because the game hasn't happened yet. But I do think Houston will end up winning by a field goal or two, and it will end up still being a close game just because of the star players that are on that Baltimore Ravens offense. But we'll see. You got Tennessee Titans versus the Cardinals. I know Cam Ward, he said what he said in the little conference that he had after reacting to his 4th straight loss as a starter of Tennessee Titans. But I do think at Arizona it will be a close game, but I do say this is fairly fair. The favorite of Arizona being 7.5 favorite, that is very much likely. Even though Tennessee has a solid run game with Tony Pollard trying his best to get that offense going, there's really nothing I'm seeing other than the Arizona Cardinals doing great both running and passing the ball. And at the same time, we may see Cam Ward throw another interception. We don't know. It's a possibility that it can happen. there's a possibility that a lot of things could happen in this game. But at home in Arizona, they're trying to get back in the thing with hopefully Arizona being 3-2. And, I just think that Arizona Cardinals will win. And going into the same division, we're going to have the Seahawks versus the Buccaneers. I think Sam Darnold's doing great. He's had a couple of, little things here and there. Slow start this season with the new playbook. And having him 3.5 favorite against Buccaneers is interesting. I think it will be a solid game for both teams, but I do think after Tampa Bay, after Tampa Bay had what they had to deal with the last couple of weeks, I do think Baker Mayfield comes in and he does what he needs to do and hopefully gets a solid win and stays undefeated against facing teams in their home field. But Sam Darnold could also come out of nowhere, start passing, get at least 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns with no interceptions. Kenneth Walker would get a touchdown or so here and there. But I do still think Tampa Bay's defense can outdo the Seahawks defense a little bit, unless Baker Mayfield starts throwing interceptions again like he did last year. But so far, we haven't seen too much of that, if that at all. I think Baker Mayfield doesn't have a single interception, if I'm not mistaken. This is going to be a solid game, though. I think it will come down to a field goal or by a final drive thing where either the Seahawks or Tampa Bay has one final drive to go in there, either get a field goal or get a touchdown, and will end the game there. I do think it can be that close. But with Tampa Bay, I think Tampa Bay is going to end up winning. It could make the Arizona Cardinals feel a lot better if they win against the Titans and go 3-2, tying with Seahawks, even though I'm pretty sure the Seahawks already beat the Cardinals. But still, it would help and give a little bit more necessary reasoning on why the Arizona Cardinals would want to win this game going in. And with the Seahawks needing to lose, well, not needing to lose, but Tampa Bay needing to win, Seahawks would go down a little bit. But anyway, Tampa Bay would get 4-1, Seahawks would be 3-2. But again, like I said, I sound like a broken record here, but this is a very good matchup. I think, if you think about it, I think this is a pretty solid. I think this is like top 3 best matchups this weekend. Now, if Jaden Daniels is coming back for this game, you will see a back and forth game. Yes, it's at home. Yes, they're favoriting 2.5 to the Chargers. But the way the Chargers are looking, between penalties, having your number 1 tackle get injured last week, and now you're having a backup tackle go into that game, the offensive line is not doing Justin Herbert any favors. Yes, he does have a solid stat sheet, but he also hadn't done anything too much last week. Last week, he couldn't do the same thing as he did the week before, which was be able to come back from being in a deficit from the fourth quarter until the end of the game. So, very much. Now, granted, I'm not taking anything away from the Giants. They did what they needed to do to win the game. However, I do expect the Commanders to end up winning, even though they haven't won a single away game yet. If Jaden Daniels is coming back, Commanders are in. The Commanders have also been pretty wonky up and down with their defense, and even if it's Marcus Mariota, he was definitely up and down last week against the Atlanta Falcons. So looking at it through the Chargers' eyes, I think you rush the ball a lot more, give Hampton, because Hampton played out of his mind last week, and it was a shame that I didn't have him starting. But you got Justin Herbert. If he can get away from whatever's going on that offense the last 2 weeks, and that offensive line looks better than it has in the last 2 weeks, and the defense looks better, I think you have the Chargers winning by 3 or 6 points. If Jaden Daniels sniffs the field, if he steps onto that field in California, SoFi Stadium, you will see the Commanders win. There will be a different slide of change for that defense, and it will be a back and forth game still, but Jaden Daniels will look a lot better. He will look a lot better going in after he unfortunately had a struggling injury that has been lingering a little too long, in my opinion. And hopefully it doesn't linger too long, because if he does step onto that field, even if he's not 100%, there could end up being an even longer thing where he does end up having to stay back after a half or something. But I do think Commanders will play well and they will win against the Chargers. Even though the Chargers are undefeated at home, it still looks like the Chargers are beating themselves out there between penalties, between the mistakes on offense and defense. It does look like, unless they fix some of that stuff on offense, it does look like they are beating themselves the last 2 weeks. And I think they should have been 2-2. I think some people could have thought about the Chargers being 2-2 by this time. So anyway, I do think Commanders, like I said, gonna win. And let's get back into the rhythm of this, which you got the New England Patriots versus the Bills. Drake May has been playing solid. It can be with the New Orleans Saints doing what they did against the Buffalo Bills at the Highmark Stadium. I do think it is very much a possibility if the Patriots, and it's funny because Buffalo was favored even higher against the New Orleans Saints going into it. And it's actually kind of interesting how the Buffalo Bills, first 5 games, 4 of them are home games. Come on, guys. I'm now granted, by the end of the season, with them already getting so many home games now, it may be a little bit tougher going into away games because they're so used to these home games. They get all this confidence. They go to one of these solid teams away and they end up making some mistakes that lose them the game. But still, I think the Patriots defense is the only worry that I have for the Patriots. Drake May has been solid. Their run game has been iffy, but not too iffy. If Stephon Diggs can come out of the shell like he did last week, I think you have an even closer game with Drake May throwing it to Stephon Diggs, but also throwing it to Hunter Henry, also throwing it to Booty. But that Patriots defense is still in question. That Buffalo Bills team can do a lot against that New England Patriots team, and they have already. Now it's a different defense for sure than last year, but still, I think it can be a back and forth game, but it'll be either by a touchdown or fewer for the Buffalo Bills to win. And I do think the Buffalo Bills will stay undefeated, winning against their division rivals. And though I'm not going to doubt that Drake May ends up throwing three touchdowns. I was about to say 3 interceptions, but 3 touchdowns, just so it shows that the New England Patriots are becoming a better team. It's just whenever they're facing the Bills, or whenever they're facing some of these other better teams, whether it be on paper or just in general, you do have still some struggle that the Patriots still need to work on. Unless you get like a different defensive coordinator to come up with some different stuff to make it an even closer game, to where Drake May can have a lot of different ways. Well, Drake May can be given a lot of different possessions and have possession of the ball at like the opposing team's 35 or the opposing team's 25 because of solid sacks or solid interceptions. Maybe with everything going on with block kicks or punt returns or something like that, we may see something like that in this game particularly, because that it could just go anywhere. And I'm actually kind of excited for what the Patriots could do. But if Baltimore, I don't know why I'm thinking about Baltimore right now, but if Buffalo Bills come out in their Buffalo way, they will not try to make it close. They will do whatever they can defensively. They will try to fix whatever they had done defensively against the Saints. They will switch it up quite a bit, because I feel like they should, especially allowing as many points against the Saints as they did. Well, yeah, with the Saints like getting quite a few points. I may have looked at a different game, but I do think the Saints shouldn't have gotten as many points as they did. Now, Baltimore. Now, Buffalo Bills were able to start taking away the game from the Saints. It still is not something you want to see as a Bills fan, to be able to allow that much happening, but then at the same time that offense is still looking pretty solid. But also, speaking of that offense, Jared Cook could run circles around this Patriots defense. The Patriots have allowed a lot of rushing yards, but they've also allowed a lot of passing yards too. So it's very much back and forth, and we could see a close game. We could see Buffalo absolutely slapping their little brother in the New England Patriots away with 2 or 3 possible touchdown deficit, possibly. So yeah, Bills remain undefeated. Chiefs and Jaguars at home still have, well, they're 3-1 going in. Jaguars are. They're undefeated, 2-0. Chiefs have been playing a lot better. Now, yes, injuries caused that to happen last week, but then you also had, a solid game against the Giants. Not a huge blowout or anything, but also the Giants have gotten a little bit better too. The Baltimore Ravens, they were diminished. They got a bunch of injuries. You could have a lot of things going for the Chiefs, though, coming into this game, with them now being 2-2. It could end up being a game, and it's funny because I don't know, maybe it's just Patrick Mahomes or something that they're loving on, but they are giving the favorite to the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they're going to Jaguars home. So I do think Patrick Mahomes actually will end up helping win this game, with some people like Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster even putting up some solid plays here and there. But as long as they could actually get that run, I think last week they were able to get that run going, whether it was Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco. It still looked like they were trying to get a solid run game going. They did get first downs because of it, but they also got first downs and large gains because of solid playmaking by the receivers and by Patrick Mahomes. We see that, and the Jaguars will get exposed on defense, and at the same time, the Chiefs' defense is also way better than what some people are saying that they are, in my opinion. I think they're underrated, and they have been underrated for the last 3 to 5 years, just because, maybe I'm wrong on that, but it irritates me that no one respects this Chiefs defense whatsoever. So I think I think Trevor Lawrence will get exposed more than what he has in the last 4 games. I think he will get pressured. Not to say that this won't be a close game, especially with Jacksonville playing in their stadium. But the Kansas City Chiefs will come in, and I feel like they will dominate more than what people are going to think that they're going to do. Simply put, that is what I think. You guys can have your own opinion about it, but the Chiefs will score 2 or more touchdowns more than the Jaguars. I think it will be a close game, but it will just be pulled away in the second half by Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City offense. And at the same time, Trevor Lawrence has thrown interceptions this year. Not to say Patrick Mahomes couldn't throw an interception in this game, but Trevor Lawrence looks to not look so good against solid defenses either. And they didn't look good against us. We had a shit defense. So, and by us, I mean the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, obviously, they could always have fixed those problems, but still, I think the Chiefs end up winning this game. And whenever we get to the review of all these games by hopefully Monday night or Tuesday morning, and hopefully I can upload that by Tuesday, I will be able to share with you all of my rights, all of my wrongs on my predictions of this weekend for the Week 5 NFL schedule. So thank you guys for listening in. Hopefully you guys like and subscribe if you haven't already. Comment what you think of the video, and maybe you look back at what I said in probably 3 to 5 days from now. You look back at the games, and then you come back to this video and comment to me on what you guys thought about my predictions. Up to you. But anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.